Closed. Okay. I should just make it that anybody can record it in the future, but okay. Whoa. This is one of those Torah portions or Torah weekends, I should say. One of those Torah weekends that we really got a lot going on. First of all, I do find it amazing when we were talking last week, while we were talking last week about how there wasn't really a response yet and those kinds of things. As we were talking, must have been when they were preparing some of the responses that we were seeing. So those that were, I'm sorry to confuse anybody, but that's just a follow up from last week. I just thought that was pretty amazing. By the time we got off the call, we were getting some responses from some of the leaders of the Jewish people about how to deal. Okay, so I know we haven't had time to fully digest all of that, and we're still digesting the past week and moving forward. But we reached a time on the calendar for the Jewish people, which last year was very challenging. This year is also continues to be challenging. We were challenged by Simchas Torah this year, obviously, right? We were, what exactly is supposed to be our approach in a time like this. And tonight, right now, we just are celebrating Rosh Chodesh Adar, right? Rosh Chodesh Adar is the month of Adar. It's the new month of Adar. And we're taught in Halacha that Mishenichnas Adar Marbim Besimcha. When the Hebrew month of Adar is Nichnas, when it enters, when it comes in, Marbim, we increase Simcha. We increase our joy, our happiness. Okay, let's keep that in mind. And what we contrast that to is that when the Hebrew month of Av comes along, instead of saying that we're marbim b'simcha, we increase our joy, what do? We are mima'atin. We minimize our simcha. We take away some of our joy. I always like to say, I'm not sure who I heard this from. Maybe it was my older brother who said it, but maybe he heard it from a Hasidic rabbi of some sorts, because it would seem to be along those lines, that what these two different laws tell us or show us is what is the default setting of the Jew, of a person. What's the default setting? Default setting is joy, is happiness, is simcha. Sometimes there's points in the year where we're going to increase it. We're marbim b'simcha. We lift up, we make great our simcha. And then there's times of the year where we're ma'atin. We minimize it. We lower it a little bit, lower it. But the default, what's the baseline? What's the baseline of a person supposed to be? It's supposed to be simcha. It's supposed to be joy. It's supposed to be happiness. So I wasn't planning to necessarily focus fully on that. We can maybe do that next week as we are getting closer to Purim. But something that is interesting is every month of the Jewish calendar, every holiday season has a certain energy to it. The energy of Adar, right, is an energy of the Jewish nation being saved. Not that we're being freed like we find Pesach time where we're freed, right, where Nisan is a month of freedom. Adar is a month of perhaps salvation, right, being saved from a tough situation or death, really. So much so, they talk about how if a person has a court case, it's actually better, let's say a person has a court case, if they have the ability to move the dates around for it, if one should make sure not to have it in the month of Av, that's a bad time for the Jewish people. That's when the temples were destroyed. That's the golden calf, right? We don't mess with the month of Av. But if someone can get their court case moved into the month of Adar, good move. Good news for the Jews. That's what you want to try to do. So if you got anything coming up, right, this is a great month, for some of those kinds of things. And that's the inspiration that's the mode I want to be in as we enter into the month of Adar. We got so much going on. And yes, joy is challenging, right? When we start to think about things, it can become challenging. But what we're showing, what Hashem is telling us about this month, Hashem says to us, this month has an incredible power of joy. Us, we need to actively engage our joy simcha muscles, right? And by us engaging our simcha muscles, right, then Hashem can bring more joy, can bring more salvation into our lives, into the world.
Glad that Adar times itself with March Madness, so it gives me lots of opportunity to be happy.
That's right. There you go. See, look, we don't mess with the Jewish calendar. We got it going on, right? So, so this is but this is like the thing. As we're going in, we're like, what do you mean? We're kind of torn. Now, I think as Jewish people, right? We as Jews, we're always dealing with this balance, right? Of if we were to really take out the Jewish history calendar, we're going to find something not so exciting probably for almost every day of the year. If we go back in Jewish history, right? But that's not what we do. We have times on our calendar where we hyper focus on those. The month of Av in particular is when we hyper focus on that, right? Where we have our fast days over the course of the year where we focus on those times, those challenging times. We're not supposed to constantly be in that tough place. Now, obviously, if somebody is mourning, if they're going through a shiva, they're going through a shloshim, they're going through that first year, they have a yard site, right? Those are points on the calendar for a person where they're at on their own journey, right? But as a people, and the bigger picture and the macro world of how we're supposed to view our lives and how we're supposed to carry ourselves and conduct ourselves, it comes from a place of joy. That's what we're supposed to be at. So now, but how do we do that though? Right? That can be challenging. We got a lot of stuff going on. So there's a balance here, obviously. And if somebody is already, let's say, for example, if we're going ahead and we've added something, unique into our lives for the situation going on in Israel and beyond, for the students on campus, for the absent-minded professors that are behaving the way that they're behaving, right? Not to get, we all have different things that, that are troublesome to us more in our own particular lives, our kids, our students, our friends, wherever they are, right? So, I know a lot of the community has taken on to say extra psalms every day. I still have a soldier that I pray for. I've been praying for from the beginning, October. As soon as those soldiers went in, there was a program, I don't know if I shared it with anybody, I probably did, where you could sign up for a soldier to be, then you could pray for them. I actually reached out to the organization that did this. I said, I want to know how my soldier's doing. I hope I want to know how he's doing, is what I should say. Right? I've been praying for the same fellow all this time. I've been praying for lots of people, but I'm praying for this particular fellow. And I reached out back out to the organization that started this. And like, do you know where he is? Or she, whoever it is. Right? So I've already added that into my count, into my regular daily schedule, right? So now, okay, so I am not going to say that I'm fully doing my part, but I'm certainly becoming a partner with the challenge, with the situation, right? I'm definitely part of it. I'm feeling it. Okay, so now what else? I want to move into the month of Adar, and I want to be in this place of increased joy. Okay, so how do I make sure I do that? What can I do? How do I do it? So we look for the Torah portion, of course, to help us out with some of these kinds of things. That's what we always do. This particular Shabbos, we're actually going to read 3 parts of the Torah. We're going to read 3 parts of the Torah. I just want to pull one part up. My screen is not being shared, so I just want to pull up one part of the Torah portion. So one part we're going to read is this week's Torah portion itself. The classic Torah portion is Parashas Teruma. All right, Teruma is really where we begin to learn about the building of the Mishkan, the building of the tabernacle. That's what this Torah portion is Teruma. Next week, before we get to next week, we're also going to read, Shabbos is also Rosh Chodesh, a new month. So we're going to first read the first 6 aliyos are going to be Teruma. The 7th is going to be for Rosh Chodesh, for the new month. And then Haftorah, Maftir and Haftorah are going to be connected to the what we call Parshas Shekalim or Parshat Shekalim, which is the Torah portion. Now you refine the screen where we are. Sorry, guys. There we go. Now I can see everybody's faces. So the which is the part where we talk about giving a half shekel coin in. If you recall this from past years of exploring the Torah, everybody between the ages of 20 and 40 of the Jewish people took a half shekel coin and they gave it in. It was helpful for a census to figure out how many people there were. That was the practical piece of it. Also, that money that was given in was a way to contribute towards communal offerings and different types of maintenance for the tabernacle and for the Beit HaMikdash. Now, the lesson, guess one of the for me that speaks to me most. I'm sure there's lots of lessons to learn from the Shekalim part, the giving a half shekel part of the portion, is the idea that, well, let's say as somebody who is very rich and he says, you know what, I want to give a whole coin, right? So obviously in regards to the census, it's going to mess up the census. So that's practically, no, you can't do that. You're going to mess everything up. We're trying to figure out how many people, and you're going to give a whole coin and that guy gave a half. That's just practically. But the lesson that Hashem wants us to learn from this, what's the lesson? The lesson is Hashem is saying, listen, everybody, you are half. You need others to make you whole. You rely on friends, relatives, community, right, to fill in the other half of you. We need other people. We need it. Those that I think we probably felt this. I certainly felt it a lot during COVID, even though we had a full apartment and we only had one bathroom. Believe me, we knew how many people were inside that building, right? but there was a sense of community, right, that was not there. I think Jeffrey and I talked about this in the past for sure. When I lived in a different community at some point, I'll leave the community name out, but when I lived in a different community, one of the temples, their building was just way too large for them. And the amount of repairs that were needed, the cost didn't balance out with how much space they were using in the building. So they were deciding about selling the building, moving on to Skype services. And then they would get together every, once a month or once every month and a half. They'd rent out a space inside of a church or whatever it was to rent out a space in the basement. And they'd have in-person services like once a month or once every month and a half. And a number of people asked me my opinion. I said, please don't do that to me because, whatever I'm going to answer, I'm going to get in trouble. So I said, but they said, no, they pushed me on it. And I said, look, when we lived in the wilderness and then we moved into the land of Israel, God told us we need to have a tabernacle. God said we need to have a physical place where it could be, you can call it the physical manifestation of God's presence in this world, right? Whatever nice terminology you want to use about it. There needs to be a place where what? Where we gather in, gather around, right? We need to have that. When we want to make a minyan, right? You want to say a Kaddish, you got to have a minyan. And really being in person is the best because when we're in person like that, automatically when 10 Jews come together in a space, it brings a more of a concentration, right, of God's energy in that place. That's the impact that it has. So I said, I feel strongly for lots of practical reasons and also for spiritual reasons. Hashem said, that's the Torah portion starts off, build a Mishkan for me. Asuli Mikdash, use the language of Mikdash. Make for me a Mikdash, v'shachanti b'socham, and I'll dwell there. I want you to be involved with building a synagogue, building a temple, building the sanctuary. This is what we need. And this is why it's so important to get together. And we felt that during COVID. I think we felt that during COVID, right? That sense of coming together wasn't there. We were missing a whole part of who we were and what we are and that energy that's built off of that. right? I had a friend who was he's the head of a synagogue, and he had a congregant at one point. I'm not sure how recent it was that he asked me. He said, "Look, Rabbi, I cannot make it to services on Shabbat. Saturdays I gotta sleep in. I wacko hours all week. I cannot get up early enough to come to services." He says, maybe I can make it to way at the end of Musaf, but I can make it to Kiddush. But I feel bad coming to Kiddush because I didn't attend services. Rabbi, should I still be coming to services? Should I still be coming for Kiddush or not? Now, besides the fact that we call those JFKers, which is just for Kiddishers, right? Nothing to do with the president, right? But my friend told him, he said, look, I can't tell you what other congregants are going to say, how they're going to feel about it. That I can't tell you. But I will tell you that for yourself and your own journey and your own part of community, yes, you should be there. There's a reason we do a Kiddush. You should be there. I want you there. It's a chance to spend time with people, feel like you're a sense of community. Okay, and maybe you'll hit a point where your schedule changes and it'll already be part of your routine to come to shul, right? You should do it. It'll be great for you. So that's what he does. Now, at this point, I think the guy started to get up a little, schedule change a little bit, and he's able to go to services. But I think this is a major part of it. And that's one of the lessons of the half coin, is telling us you need another part. You need another person. You need another part of your journey. The journey on your own isn't going to work, or it's very challenging to journey on your own. You need that sense of community, that sense of connection. Now, when we look, this week's email is going to come out. So I'm going to talk about one of the most famous questions they ask on the Torah portion. Is actually the language that I just mentioned. Was it says, and not when the verse doesn't say, make for me a mikdash, right? Make for me a beit mikdash. V'shachanti, it should say v'shachanti b'socho, and I will dwell in it. I'll dwell in the sanctuary. I'll dwell in the temple. But it's not what it says. It says v'shachanti b'socham. I will dwell amongst them, or dwell amongst you, which doesn't really seem to make sense. It's not so exact. So the classic answer to this question is God is telling us whether there's a physical temple or not, because the temple and the tabernacle will be destroyed, will be taken apart, but I will still dwell amongst you. But that has an added level of responsibility. In what sense? We need to make ourselves into a place where God can dwell. For some people, it might mean we need to make space within ourselves for God to dwell. Whether it's an attribute of arrogance that someone might have, or ego, right? That's one aspect. That could be our actions might be ones that just like, whoa, there ain't enough room in this space for the both of us. You can't be doing all of those things and then still try to invite me in, says God. You want me here? Something's got to leave. You can't invite me into your house with some kinds of things that are in that house. This is not a place for me, not a place for God, right? So you have to, or what is that? What else can it mean? It can mean that we need to work on ourselves to become individuals that are fitting for a God to dwell amongst us. That's what we need to be. They tell a little bit of a scary parable, but I think the lesson's there, and we all can, apply it to different aspects of our lives. The Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov, the evil inclination and the good inclination, whatever you want to call them. Everyone has different names for them. They had a meeting because they kept getting in each other's way. The good guy, right, the dark side, right, and the force were having a hard time being in this sharing space. So they had a meeting. And the Yetzer Tov, the good guy, Tov says to Mr. Bad Guy, he says, look, there's so much space in the world where you could hang out. So you know what? Why don't you go to all those places where people are doing things that are kind of iffy, right? Nothing to do with Vegas, right? They're right. There's plenty of spaces where I don't go, says Mr. Tove, right? So you know what, Mr. Yetzirah, you hang out over there. You have lots of space and you can keep doing your routine of confusing people and mixing them up and getting them to do things they're not supposed to do. But I need you to stay away. I'm going to get the spaces of the houses of study, the temples, the synagogues, right? The Kotel, Israel. Like, these are my spots. So stay away, Mr. Yetzirah, Mr. Bad Guy. All right, it was working pretty well. And one day, Mr. Tove walks into his synagogue, and he can't believe it. He can't believe it. Mr. Yetzirah is there. He says, "What are you doing here? You have yard site or something? What's going on? What are you doing here?" He says, "Oh, no, I don't have yard site." So he says, "So I thought we made a deal. Why are you here?" He said, "Well, sorry to say it, but I know you think this is a place of worship or a place of study, but I mean, you should pay attention to what people are thinking about. You should pay attention to what people are talking about. You should pay attention to what's going on around this situation, because they might be standing inside of this place, supposedly, right? Supposedly doing the spiritual Yetzer Tov thing, but you should go pay attention to some of those conversations." And Mr. Yetzer Tov says, "Man, oh man, you're right. You're right." And this is this concept of what Hashem is telling, what the Torah is telling us, right? What does our space look like? Us as individuals, our homes, right? Where we call our homes, they call it a mikdash ma'at, which means a small temple. Mm-hmm. Our homes are a small temple. Our homes are the space that we create for ourselves, for growth, to invite our friends in, to invite our community in, to invite family in. That's what our homes are, right? Our world is bombarded with so much. When you step out your front door, and now our homes, every home we got things that are traveling in on a regular basis. Forget the mail. It used to be you got worried about the mail. You're not worried about the mail now. What are you worried about coming in? What's traveling through the Wi-Fi? What's showing on your screens? What activities are taking place? What kind of language is being used? Are our homes a place of growth? Are our homes a place where God's going to come and hang out? Are we actually doing it, says Yetzer Tov and Yetzirah, right? Are we going through the motions, right? Look, oh my God, it's almost Shabbos. All right, I'm going to light the candles, going to get the challah ready, and I'm going to make a kiddush, right? Now, those are great motions, right? And they're important, and it's awesome. But are we infusing that with an actual thought behind it, a mindfulness, a connection that's happening with it? Or have we fallen into a space of, it's our routine, so we do it? Now, obviously, that's a better routine, right? Better to do whatever you're doing inside of the temple, right, than to be out doing it someplace else. Perhaps you can certainly make that argument. But while we're talking about the Torah, of course, is speaking to us for this, telling us, look, even when you don't have a temple on Temple Mount, right, but you got your synagogues, you have your temples in your town, you have your house, which is a mini version of that, right? Turn those into spaces where God can dwell. Make sure there's room for the God factor. Make sure there's room for Hashem. Make sure the things that we're doing, our actions, our character, our attributes, the way we talk, the way we think, what we share with each other, what we let it come in, what the environment that we create, is it a loving, caring, growing environment? All these kinds of things are all factors. And we're starting a new month. This is the beauty of Judaism. Every month we have a Rosh Chodesh, which means it's a new moon. What's the symbolism of the moon? The Jewish people are compared to the moon because we wax and we wane. We have moments of brightness, big, bold. We provide light for the whole world in darkness, right? But then we start to disappear again. The Jewish people are kind of off the map, right? But then guess what? Don't mess. We're back, right? Big and bold, and we're back, right? And this is really this is for all of us in our own journeys. We wax and wane within our own journeys, our ups and our downs. So a new month gives us a time for that, re-energizing ourselves, recalibrating ourselves, almost like a mini Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, right? In a certain sense. Every new month, we have that opportunity. Okay, last month didn't quite go the way I wanted. I was hoping to be a little different last month. I was aiming for certain things. I didn't do it. Well, guess what? New month, new leaf. Let's do it. We got this. That's what the lesson of the Rosh Chodesh is. And along with that lesson of the Parashas Shekalim, of the shekel, telling us, don't think you're on your own. You're not on your own. You got a whole community that's also trying to do this, that's also journeying, that's also aiming for great things, trying to bring Hashem into the community. And that's, I think, the lesson of this beautiful conglomeration of having all of these parshios together, all the energy. It's a heavy-duty, loaded parsha, loaded weekend of opportunity for growth as we enter into the month of Adar to increase that joy, right? The joy of Torah, the joy of, as my friend says, the joy of Judaism. It's not just Judaism, it's got to be Judaism. Judaism is supposed to be enjoyable. There's something amazing there. If we're not feeling the joy, we're missing something in our Judaism. It's supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to bring a simcha, an awesomeness into our lives. And that's how we prep ourselves for Purim. So we'll talk about Purim next week. I'll let you know if we're on next week. Anybody local, we have a Scotch and Schmooze next Thursday night. So not sure we'll be in person. Maybe we'll meet on Wednesday instead. We'll be in touch about that. But we'll talk about Purim, what the power, the energy of Purim. It's not just about costumes and drinking and meals and Megillah. And yes, those are all part of it. But those are to create a certain environment of accomplishing a certain service and a certain goal and avoda of Purim. And for me, this will be my cliffhanger. I'll end with this. For me, Purim, I know I'm going to sound crazy. And if I repeat this next week, anyone that's in person with me, okay, I actually feel that one of the hardest days to do the service that Hashem wants us to do, of all the holidays, I think Purim is the hardest.
Why?
Purim is the hardest. You can ask why, but I won't answer you.
Okay.
That's something to think about, right?
All
But
right.
if a holiday that I'm nervous that I'm not going to actually, I have one day to accomplish what's supposed to be accomplished for a Purim, right? I get nervous going in that maybe I might not be able to pull it off. That's the cliffhanger. So everyone should have an amazing Shabbos. All right, soak up all these beautiful opportunities for thought and for growth and for connection and for question. And we should soak that up, bring it into our lives, bring it into action. And if we do that, it'll be amazing. As always, if there's questions, we'll take them. If you think of something later, feel free to call, email, text, WhatsApp, Facebook message. I don't know. Pick your LinkedIn message. I don't know, whatever you like. Available on all of them except for Twitter. But we'll press pause over here. Actually, maybe before we press pause, any questions or thoughts on that?
Just a yash koach to you, my friend, for another delivery.
Amazing.
Mr. Shapiro, you doing all right over there? Your hands are all over your head and face. I want to make sure you're okay. All right, good, very good.
Mr. Shapiro's on the East Coast. He's got an hour ahead of us.
I'm okay.
Just want to make sure.
I'm just getting over the flu.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Man, Mr. Shapiro is always setting the bar.
That's it.
Refuah
Shalema, Mr. Shapiro. Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. We got to check up on Will. I got to give Will a call after this. I'll give Will a call, see how he's doing. He was sick last week, so.
Hey, all right.
Yeah. All right, amazing.
All right.
No coughing, Mitchell.
Yes.